Hello everybody. Today I'm doing another video on positivity and happiness research. I've went into a few different things that happiness research has shown to be beneficial to a person. So I've gone into social relationships, gratitude, and then I also did a video on positive versus negative emotions so we can get a better grasp of, okay, what does it actually mean to feel positive versus feeling negative subjectively in the moment. So today I wanted to talk about something called awe, which you probably heard of the word. You probably know a little bit about what it is, but maybe it's a little vague. This idea of awe, something being awe-inspiring, has a little bit to do with the sense of wonder, the sense of amazement, of sort of being stopped in your tracks and really taking in the external environment in order to feel something very powerful. And what research has found is that this sense of awe is a positive emotion. So you feel internally good, which is, as I've discussed, and research shows that positive emotions are the ones that make you feel good, negative ones are the ones that make you feel bad. So this internal sense of awe makes you feel good, this sense of wonder, this feeling of amazement, of like sort of being enraptured by what you're seeing in the moment. And there's a little bit of research on awe. I would like to go into it, at least what I've read, that science and studies have found psychologically in terms of how awe seems to affect people. So let's go into it. Okay. So one research study showed that the sense of awe, when it was inspired in people, tended to make them more convinced by sound arguments versus unsound arguments. So the sense of awe, when people they gave the subjects something that evoked the sense of awe, perhaps videos of really giant wildlife, or structures like the Notre Dame or the Egyptian pyramids or something like that, that evokes a sense of kind of like smallness in comparison to something huge and mysterious and big and interesting, right? So anyway, they evoked this sense of awe, and then the people were more convinced by sound, logical arguments than people who weren't. So there's maybe the idea that awe, just like gratitude, I talked about in another video how gratitude activates a certain part of the prefrontal cortex, which has more to do with more logical thinking, more critical thinking, and sort of more grappling with actual like facts and logic, versus sort of emotional thinking, which is very, it kind of deals in cliches, and there's not much thinking going on. It's just words kind of being thrown around. But I guess with the sense of awe, it must have some kind of internal prefrontal cortex activation, which makes people more logical and actually think things through. So this sense of awe, is can be very beneficial intellectually as well. Can make you smarter. So another study found that awe-inspiring story reading led to greater momentary life satisfaction. So if you were to read a story about, say, somebody who got through a very difficult situation and was able to come out the other side, or saw something, very rare and beautiful and big, like think of like you read a story of an astronaut who goes to space and then they see the Earth, and the Earth is so small. I can't remember which astronaut it was, but he said he looked at the Earth and said like he just wanted to go down there and shake every politician and be like, see where we are, see, this is the Earth, right? So that kind of awe-inspiring stories can actually make people in the moment feel better. So perhaps for you, that could be something you could do, where you could read awe-inspiring stories, and it could give you this internal sense of, a little bit more happiness, basically, which is what this is all about, right? So another study found that awe led to a lower level of cytokines. And cytokines, I guess, are kind of related to cardiovascular disease and perhaps even depression. It's a certain kind of thing in the body. I don't know too much about it medically, but Apparently, it led to a lower level of this, the consistent feeling of awe. And so I guess people are, it has a physically positive effect on the body, as does most positive emotion. The negative emotions tend to raise cortisol, make people stressed out, angry, really, radically unhappy, and depression. These things and loneliness, I've talked about in the social video. This sense of loneliness really, really impacts people very, very negatively, very deeply. So, awe-inspiring, having more positive emotions in your life is going to increase your physical health, and I think that the research just keeps compounding on itself for that. So awe is one way to change personal values. So personal values are a thing that are really, really difficult to change for people. If you think about their political orientation, even an opinion they've held for a long time, usually pretty negative and sort of closed-minded about something, the sense of awe can open up your mind because, with awe, basically it's a kind of an unfiltered, overwhelming, pouring in of reality. So, when you see a waterfall that's just like gigantic and it's just beautiful and powerful, it's like you're just kind of enraptured, you're just kind of stuck looking at it because this is such a powerful, overwhelming part of reality that you, at least what it seems like from research, is that you see it in a very unfiltered, unbiased way. So there's no emotional, there's no like, oh, this waterfall's stupid, this waterfall is, blah, 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 blah. It's just the waterfall. So it's a very, very, it can really open your mind, engaging in awe because you start to see things in a more unfiltered way, and you start to see connections and sort of the connection of you with everything, right? So this actually relates to a few other points, as awe does kind of connect things, as most positive emotions do kind of form connections. So awe can be a source of meditation, making us engage with the here and now. So yeah, that's basically, it's kind of like a sense of, with mindfulness meditation, a practice of mindfulness is supposed to get you into the present moment. It's supposed to get you back into this moment so that you can engage fully with what is happening right now in the present and be very here, be very aware of what's happening right now. Not, thinking of the future, not thinking of the past, but engaging with what is happening right now in this moment. So awe can sort of make you get into the moment, like it kind of forces you into it. If you're in outer space and you see the Earth, you're not gonna be thinking of like what to make for dinner tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna be like like, oh man, I really screwed up on that test. Oh, by the way, there's the Earth. There's the Earth. Like you know what I mean? So like the sense of awe sort of forces you into the present moment. I guess, in the same way that very engaging, exciting things kind of force you into paying attention to what's happening right now. Or fear as well can sort of force you into the present moment. But awe seems to be one way where, when you connect with awe and you connect with what's around you, it really does kind of force you in a mindful way to connect with things around you, right? So, yeah, so that as well all leads to a feeling of interconnectedness. So that should be obvious now, but that this sense of awe, this sense of wonder and amazement at the things around you, this waterfall, the Egyptian pyramids, the Notre Dame, big castles in Europe, and like cathedrals and mosques and Buddhist temples and a lot of like religious sort of temples and even, cities and skyscrapers and things like this, big things can sort of make you feel connected to everything and be like, wow, I'm a part of this world, I'm a part of this universe. So awe is actually connected to spiritual and religious feelings. So there were studies about evoking this sense of awe, and then those people tended to rate themselves as more spiritual afterwards. So spirituality really has to do with a feeling of interconnectedness with the world, that I'm not just this separate person living out my life in a world that has nothing to do with me, but the spiritual sense is that I myself am very much the same substance as everything around me, that I myself am very much connected with the universe as a whole. I'm not really any different than anything else, and the sense of awe can really make you connected with everything that's going on around you. So this might actually have a downside in a sense, because the religious there's one hypothesis that awe is so overwhelming, and it's kind of fearful in a sense. There's a kind of fear and trembling to awe when, like, you see a tornado and it's just this gigantic, powerful. I heard the term once, the sublime. It's the sublime. It's beyond. It's almost beyond comprehension. It's so huge, and I'm so small in comparison, as are everybody. And so you get this sense of fear, and so you might sort of overcompensate with a sense of agency. Well, there's agency to everything, and perhaps it has to do with the feeling of God, that God has a role in everything that's happening around me. One study showed that people actually tended to find agency in even randomly generated things when they evoked a sense of awe. So evoking this sense of awe could get you to start seeing sort of a sense of like agency behind things that don't really have agency. Now, perhaps I'll get into my spiritual religious beliefs later, but I think, the whole idea of agency is something to consider about, well, what makes something an agent? What makes us different than the universe in terms of agency? How do you say that the universe doesn't have agency, that everything doesn't have some kind of agency to it? Are we really that different? Anyway, but so another study found that awe leads to more pro-social behavior. So they sort of got students to watch something to do with an awe-inspiring sort of video or whatever, and then the teacher dropped a bunch of pens, and the more awe-inspired students were the ones that picked up more pens. So this feeling of interconnection, as you can see with positivity, I've talked about being social as an incredibly important part of being positive, living a social life. Pro-social behavior is a really big aspect of positivity. In fact, being social is one of the biggest impactors of happiness, like I've gone into in a previous video. And a lot of research shows. So awe can inspire you to be connected with other human beings, because you're paying attention to what's going on around you and the connections with everybody around you, rather than feeling separate through fear and anger and suspicion and hatred and just a general feeling of, oh, I have nothing in common with these people. The sense of awe can be like, wow, this person has their own story and they're part of the world too, and this is a big connected earth, the spiritual sort of sense. So another study found that awe-inspiring processing slows down time because you're taking in more information. So I might go into a video on time perception because it's a very interesting topic. But I might have talked about it a long time ago, but the idea of awe, because like I said with the example with the waterfall, there's something huge and powerful and majestic and awe-inspiring, and it actually slows down time because you're taking in more information in that period of time. You're taking in more information. You're really there experiencing this waterfall, right? You're there experiencing it, rather than you're on your phone, you're flipping through something. You could do that for 8 hours and remember, like, how much are you going to remember of that? You're just flipping through. You're barely there. But with the waterfall, it like really grasps you and really like makes you experience this thing and really makes you connect with this amazing, powerful thing, right? So, yeah, awe-inspiring things can get us. The study actually showed the time itself was slowed down because of this. That time, our experience of time, slowed down when we experienced something awe-inspiring, because we took in more information versus if they were watching, say, a commercial, a beer commercial or something like that. There's nothing awe-inspiring about a beer commercial, really. It's just kind of consumerist garbage, really. But the awe-inspiring thing really connects you, and so for that it slows down time. So taking in all of this information, we can consider, okay, so where do I go with this? How do I incorporate awe into my life? Well, just like gratitude, for me, I started a gratitude practice. I, started writing a gratitude journal in the morning, and then before I went to bed at night, writing my gratitude journal. You can do a similar thing with awe. The sense of awe is try to incorporate more awe into your life. Find something that makes you awe-inspired. So read a story of an astronaut going to space. Like, first, if you can understand what awe is, then you can look for people who have written stories about it and read those stories and connect with those people. Connect with that kind of thinking of interconnection and learning and really grasping what's happening right now. So read stories of people who went to outer space. Read stories of people who encountered, giant, natural phenomenon like volcanic eruptions and tornadoes and these sort of overwhelmingly large, tidal waves. And try to, look at pictures of, say, Muir Woods in California as, these gigantic trees. They're huge. These things are huge. Like, they're so big, like, it, like, makes you feel so small and insignificant. Look for that kind of thing. History, look at cathedrals and, Buddhist temples in Thailand and, Japan, these giant temples and things like this, the pyramids in Egypt. These things of, a sense of smallness, which once again is connected to the spiritual sort of religious thing. A lot of these are religious, sources of sort of human power, like a human expression of this sense of, the astronomical size and just the power of the universe, the power of the world, right? So you can do all that. You can incorporate all that into your life. And I think, reflection and curiosity can do it as well. Mindfulness, bringing yourself back into the moment, and in this moment being like, look at what's around you, like, wow, a computer. Where did the computer come from? Isn't that amazing? I grew up when the internet wasn't a big thing, and now here I am talking to whoever's listening, sharing my thoughts and helping somebody out, and maybe helping somebody to live a happier life. That's awe-inspiring. That's, wow, I have that power to share with somebody else, and they have that power to then spread that kind of love and that kind of, positivity around the world. How is that not awe-inspiring? But you can try to create this sense when you're at work, when you're walking to work. Like if you're walking downtown, look up, look at the skyscrapers. Don't just keep your head down, but just like, at least glance up at, these giant buildings around you. Look at humanity, look at civilization, look at what's happening around you. And, once again, read stories of awe-inspiring things and, try to get more wonder in your life. These things around you. I think awe is connected to curiosity because, once again, you are seeing things in a very unbiased way, and you are seeing, the trees and the sky and the earth and yourself and things like this. And so when you see things in an unbiased way, you are then able to connect with them and think about them more and come up with ideas more about them and be able to have this deep inner sense of like well-being when you realize, that you're connected to the whole thing, the whole shebang. You know what I mean? Like it really is a beautiful feeling. So I think, in the last video I talked about a constellation of positive feelings. So an overall sense of optimism, then gratitude, sociability, and then curiosity. Well, in this curiosity matrix, I think awe is a big part of that, because at least for me, what motivated me in terms of curiosity was kind of a stepping outside of myself into engaging with something bigger than myself, logic, history, politics, the truth, engaging with the truth. And there's one of our best ways of grasping the truth is this sort of sense of the sublime, transcendent awe. A waterfall is just a waterfall, and it's gigantic, and it's so much, I have no power over it, and it's it's just there. And so that sense can, I can get more curiosity about it, and curiosity is a positive emotion because it sort of propels you forward and things like that. So yeah, I hope that this video helped you in yet another aspect of positivity, one more tool in your toolbox to feeling happier, feeling healthier, living a better, in general, just a more happy kind of life. I hope that this helped you. And if it did, leave me a message and tell me about something that could inspire awe or your own thoughts or anything like that. So thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.